Hello, I'm Matt the Comic Guy. Today I wanted to cover something of comics that I know you notice it's never something I've never covered before, but I'm sure you've seen others cover it. Today is an interesting one, and it's the last time I ever cover something, but it turns out to be unknown what it is. It's not something of comics, but it is something I already covered before. Next videos would be not something of comics. Today I want to talk about a very interesting thing about comics, comic book characters, and the years that they last in the actual stories. See, comic books by reality can last many years. However, that's not really the case when it comes to how long they last in the actual stories. Firstly, comic book characters normally stay the same age, unless you're talking about certain exceptions where you see the character's origin or something else along those lines. Like, take Wolverine, for example, of this being the case. Wolverine is like hundreds, like many years old. Yet he doesn't seem like he's that old, due to the fact that, well, he was born a mutant. And when you're born a mutant, you're not gonna see as much aging as you normally would. This explains many things around his character's line, like the fact that he's not seem like he'd be possible to die. And also the fact that he seems like he has a very fast healing factor. Or take another example for Batman. He often was confirmed that he was a young boy when he lost his parents, when his parents were killed. Yes, very sad, but then when he got older, and was confirmed to be somewhere in his 20s when he first started as Batman. And he started being Batman in the actual stories by a decade. Yes, whole 10 years. With certain other characters, you really don't know unless you notice how much certain days go by or certain thing along those lines. However, I can tell you it's not always been confirmed this way. Secondly, no, many of them do in fact have times where they've been killed off, but been brought back to life due to the fact that it's a comic story and nothing seems like it could be possibilities in reality. Other times it can work of like an actual way, the way the characters are written and the way the characters are by years in the actual stories. Like, take Spider-Man, for example. Spider-Man was in his mid to late teens when he debuted as Spider-Man. However, he did graduate in the same time it took for a certain issue for him to graduate. Or Captain America. Captain America in both the actual story and in the comic itself fight for World War II. However, he was falling off of the plane and being frozen in ice. And it took him like decades, or in this case, many years, to actually be unfrozen. Yes, he was a man frozen in time. Literally a man frozen in time. How he survived the ice road. And depending on what version it is, it depends on how long years he's been frozen for. But still points that it's been World War II, and he has been unfrozen after years. The reason why is because he's a super soldier. In other words, he's a soldier with really great powers and reflexes. Literally, he has a lot of strength. What else can he be in his second movie in the MCU with an elevator and take out all those Hydra goons? It also explains why he never changes or never looks like, how long it's been when he's been frozen in ice. In the main universe, it was World War II, but at the end of it, he, again, fall off into a plane, lost Bucky for years, by the way, and then when he come back, it was during the issue of the fourth issue of the Avengers, which was the 60s, specifically 1964. In the MCU, however, it's like a lot different. Since the movie came out many years after that comic version, they kind of extended the years a little bit. So since his movie, they change it from 60s to more of the present day. Still, it's the same thing no matter what version it was. It depends on what year it could be. Every version of Captain America had making to confirm what year it could be. That's an interesting about time, though, in comics. Normally things like this wouldn't happen, but they did. I formerly mentioned about this with Captain America and Wolverine, and also with Batman. But there's also other cases where it's not confirmed what year in the actual story happens. Mostly. Again, there are exceptions. Like, you don't want to have the way confirmed in certain ways when it comes to other heroes like the Hulk, or Superman, or Wonder Woman, or even characters like, let's say, Green Lantern or Booster Gold. Again, that's all examples where it mostly does not confirm the times. However, it does in certain points count for what type of villains they fought. like I mentioned, Batman in the actual stories has spent a decade being Batman. Being the time that he's a decade during somewhere in his 20s, he already started at the age of being a middle-aged man, the time he has a full time of a decade of being Batman. That means that either he faces against villains by his second year of being Batman or closest to a year after. Yeah, near a decade of beating up bad guys. Beating up certain threats of his are called his rogues gallery. Again, when it comes to our heroes, not so much. However, since this is comics, it doesn't have to always be that way. Sometimes it can depend on what hero you're talking about and what type of journeys they have been of being the hero. I'm Matt the Comic Guy. See you soon enough. Bye.